it's all around here. Well, we did a project, and it's got on the side of it, we have like I'm not in Boston raised. They passed it in like 1908, but it's on that thing years ago. It's like your animal. Straight back and forth. For food, how big's the pipe? 60 inches. And you're right, it is a suit of 30, 400 foot before. It's a great system. Is it cheaper than just replacing it? For me, it's like a car. It's got 200 miles on it. It's time for a new car. You know what I mean? In other words, they bonded that money 110 years ago, right? The bond was up in 1940, so that was paid for, right? And then they got another 90 years out of it. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? The great grandparents are the ones that taxpayers have funded. Here we're still using it. And you should see something came out of it. Scrapers pull it, it slops into the thing. I can imagine. You want to stir that stuff up? Hey, John. You should have that. You should have that code on your password because you guys are a committee there, so. All right. Very good then. I would have given you that.
Well, I would
My daughter's got a bigger version than what's that's something you need to satisfy the bond council. It's really.
All right, I just want to make sure.
No, it's separate.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, it's something different than. No, it's an old one.
Okay, welcome everyone. Please stand for the pledge and remain standing for the prayer. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. As we gather here in the comfort of your safety, we thank you, Lord, for your fellowship and family. We ask that you will strengthen us, restore us, and inspire us with your love. Lord, would you fill us with your peace so that as we journey onwards, we would pour out your love and grace to others in the community. We ask that our souls would catch the wind of your spirit so that we take your promises to all the earth. Amen.
Amen.
I'd like to call this meeting to order, March 20th at 6:34 p.m. Can I have roll call, please?
I have Aldermans Berube. Present. Braun.
Here.
Tyler. Here. Pecoraro.
Here.
Zazilka.
Here.
Also present, Mayor Arthur G. Pappas and City Attorney Luke Brown.
Any opening comments from the mayor tonight?
Nothing at this time, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you. As moving forward, let's see if is there any comments tonight on the agenda and the agenda only? Please step forward, state your name and address. Step up to the microphone, please.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sonia Duza, and I reside at 123 Miller Street. On the agenda, Mr. Brown, would you tell me what has been excluded and included in the amendment for City Code Chapter A112 and 31A?
Sure, so both A112, excuse me.
Thank you.
Both A112 and 31A deal with the sale or lease of municipal property. So before this amendment, they both dealt with sale and lease. So it was telling us two different ways to do the sale and lease, so they contradicted each other. So what we're doing is for A112, we're removing lease from that section.
You're removing what?
The leases from that section and just turning 31A into the lease section and A112 into the sale section. So that a sale and a lease have their own section in the code now and how to do those.
You know, I noticed, I was surprised, it said license in one of the chapters.
Right.
What was an example of a license?
So the golf course, the vendor there at the restaurant, that's a license agreement.
Got it, thank you,
Yep.
appreciate it. Also, number 14, youth recreation parks, Porta John bid. I figured rough $1,500 difference, and I know there's some value, some would say, in the getting a better business approval. Is $1,500 in the better business approval enough of a reason to go to the higher 1,500?
Sonia, I know in regard to that, talking to the superintendent of Parks and Recreation, Patty Brochus, she said it was extremely difficult to get that company, because they had the lower bid last year, to come in and clean out their porta potties.
All?
Yeah, they were not very good to work with.
Good, I'm glad to hear, you know, because I thought, okay, got the answer. Thank you so much. And also, you know, on the traffic safety, let me go to historic preservation. On communications from others, historic preservation, permission to have a paid administrative assistant for their meetings. You notice the traffic safety has the minutes on the website, which I appreciate. It's good to see the minutes. Do they have a special secretary?
No,
That's what this,
committee-
that's what this
That's
position
part
is.
of this.
They're a committee, not a,
the traffic safety does not have a special secretary, no.
no.
Who
they're not-
writes that up, the minutes that they present?
I believe that is Officer Frank. Officer
One of the
Frank.
members. Well, why can't that be with historic preservation?
We had a workshop about that, Mr. Fonzie spoke about it. It's a state, these are state filed things that need to be done and need to be done right. And there's a lot of work and it's a commission versus a committee. So he made those distinctions, so we therefore decided that that was necessary.
And you probably want to have somebody who really can keep good notes, accurate, what have you.
Absolutely.
I see, that helps, that helps. At the same time, playing devil's advocate, could this be a precedent for another committee saying, hey, they have it?
Well, this is a commission, not a committee.
I'm sorry,
It's a commission, not a committee.
okay. How many commissions do we have in NT then? How many?
John McKissick.
Anybody know?
How many do we have at this point? The environmental committee hasn't really
They're all,
sort of dissolved.
most of them are just committees that make recommendations,
Okay.
but the lumber baron district under the Historic Preservation Committee is an actual state thing. And this is the difference. They don't just make recommendations, they make decisions. And it's all reported to the state and has to be accurate.
Sonia, if you want to go at the bottom of the webpage, the website, I have a spot that's committees and boards, and it lists all of them that are in the city. Just open up and it lists them all, it lists all the members
The names.
and phone numbers, I think, for most of the people on there.
Really?
Yes.
You were just reading my mind because I was, I've been wanting to ask this for a long time. In years past, at the beginning of the year, after the organization meeting, it would be in the Tonawanda News, publish the different committees, and even before that, who, that they are asking for, who would like to sit on that committee. My question to you is, do we still have the committees we used to have? If we do, let us know. If they're defunct, let us know. And then, like you said, you have the members on each committee. Can you put that on your website?
It's on there.
Karen, Sonia, it's on the bottom of the
It's on
webpage,
there.
homepage.
Yeah, but you gotta go to it and hunt for it.
It's right there, you just gotta click it open, it lists all the current committees. So you can just look right there.
Is there still a cable committee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
There is. So you got a complaint about our cable, you go to that
Yes.
group.
Yeah, that was just recently,
That's
Sonia,
Yes.
do you have any, thank you.
What did Mr. Zazoka say?
I said it was just recently reformed, that committee, the cable committee.
Okay, wonderful. I did have another item, but I will be back.
Thank you,
so
Sonia.
much.
All right, you're welcome. Anybody else wishing to speak on any city business? John, if you want to speak from your chair, go ahead. He's gonna get up? No, John.
Number 14, Porter John Award, bid award. Does that include Pinewoods Park?
No, it does not, John. And actually, I spent the day with someone in our Parks Department, and they are avidly looking into making that bathroom in Pinewoods Park accessible.
Yeah.
I brought you up during the discussion and just said, some people do have trouble. It is quite a jump, a lip of sorts. So I'm gonna be following up with the person in the Parks Department just to see if they've made any progress. I believe they're going after some sort of grant for
Yes,
it
they
also.
are.
So just give it some time. I know this has been an ongoing thing.
And we need a railing.
Yeah, so the whole point of this grant would be to make the entire lavatory accessible and
Right.
Mhm.
I belong to two organizations, and they're for older people.
Mhm.
And only
wiser people, right, John?
Yes,
Yeah.
I'm only speaking for myself, but for the other ones.
Mhm.
Well, it's good that we're
Yeah.
looking for a grant for that,
Good.
John.
Yeah, Patty's been working on that.
I think the money's already been found and we're identifying next year as the
Yeah.
timeline
Yeah.
to get that next year.
19?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm gonna supper this year.
I will help you out.
Yeah,
Okay.
tell me when you wanna go to the park,
I'll
John.
make sure I call, yeah. Thank you.
Did you ever, can I ask a question? Did you ever get your flag fixed?
Tomorrow.
Well-
I called somebody,
Sue?
I got somebody.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
Good.
Awesome, excellent.
that's timely.
She's on top of things. Anybody else with any comments on the city agenda and the city agenda only? Please come up to the microphone, state your name and address. Again, anybody wishing to speak on tonight's agenda? Seeing that there's none, we'll move on to we'll roll the minutes.
Okay, approval of the minutes of the regular session, March 6, 2018.
I'll make the motion to approve the minutes.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka,
I'll second it.
second by Alderman Tyler.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion's carried.
Proof of publication published February 9th, 2018. Legal notice, public hearing on rezoning of 576 Walk Road. City Clerk Treasurer. Do I have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Alderman Berube,
I'll second.
seconded by Alderwoman Braun.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have communications from city officials. City attorney regarding amendment to NT City Code, Chapter A, 112, city property, sale, and Chapter 31A, disposition of municipal real property, lease or exchange.
After lots of discussion on this, I'd really like to make the motion on this one.
And I'd like to second it also, and I'll make comments, at the end of the discussion.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderman Tyler.
We have a motion and a second. Let's do roll call on this.
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro,
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Braun,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion is carried.
From the clerk treasurer regarding city-owned property. And before I go forward, I would just like to mention that we are only going to approve the sale of 14 of those 15 bids. The 15th one of them, address of 191 Rumble at this time, has to be pulled for issues with bank. The bank in our search company missed this property that it was already sold at a bank auction.
All right, make a motion to remove that property and approve the rest of the list. Do I have a motion for that?
I'll make that motion.
By Alderman Tyler,
I'll second.
seconded by Alderman Braun.
We have a motion and a second. Let's do a roll call on this one, please.
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro,
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Braun,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion is carried.
I have from the city engineer regarding North Tonawanda Stormwater Program Assistance Agreement.
On the question with that, Dale, did we get a couple bids on that, and what does the work exactly entail? Is it just reports?
Well, back in 2010, the state of New York, DEC promulgated their new stormwater regulations, which required MS4s, municipally separate storm sewer systems like North Tonawanda, to monitor and report on their stormwater activities, good housekeeping, cleaning, monitoring our 62 outfalls, pond inspections. We have several hydrodynamic units of filtered water within the system that all have to be inspected, and then we generate a report at the end of the year, which that report is due in March. So we originally sent out an RFP back in around that date, and we contracted with Wendell Engineers for the first few years of that agreement. And we created a line item in the budget for stormwater, because it was one of those unfunded mandates that just came down and makes us police ourselves and right back to the DEC that we're doing our job.
Right.
And one of the big things is housekeeping, good housekeeping, where, the golf course applies a lot of fertilizer, those type of
Right.
things.
So the
Good
runoff
washing
there,
the canal,
right?
DPW, wastewater parks, so we make sure that they're all doing their jobs, and there's public outreach too. In 2016, we contracted with an engineer who opened up her office here in North Tonawanda, so we switched gears from Wendell, and she's been really working with us from the beginning Paul. So it's
Okay.
Jamie Davidson's.
So it's an annual report that we're,
It's much more than the annual report, so we put some funds aside and we use it when they're finally gone, then we come back and review the agreement, so.
Got it.
It wasn't an RFP this time, but
Okay.
we're just keeping it going.
Okay.
It's a lot of work in their reports due this month, so.
okay, just wanted to clarify.
Thank you, Dale.
Thank you.
Can I have a motion and a second on this item, please?
I'll make the motion.
Moved by Alderman Tyler,
I'll second it.
second by Alderman Zazoka.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have roll call on this item, please?
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro.
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion is carried.
From the engineer regarding Sweeney Canal Wall Dock Extension proposals.
Yeah, I'd like to thank Dale Marshall and the team that he put together of experts and then one straggler.
I'd like to thank you, Bob, too.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I'll tell you, you know, what Dale sums up there about experience, expertise, and capacity. Gwen did the first half of the doc program and did a phenomenal job. And even though they were a little bit more costly, we feel that they are the best to be able to move forward with that dock extension program. So I'm gonna make the motion that we go with Gwen as the overall firm to do that.
Moved by Alderman Pecoraro,
I'll second.
second by Alderwoman Braun.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have roll call on this item, please?
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro,
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Braun,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion's carried.
From the city accountant regarding payment of the abstract of claims dated March 20th, 2018.
I make the motion, we pay the
And I'll
abstract.
second that.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderman Pecoraro.
And I'll need roll call on this one as well.
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro,
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Braun,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion carried.
Youth, Recreation and Parks regarding Porta John bid award for 2018.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Alderwoman Braun,
I'll second that.
by Alderman Tyler.
We have a motion and a second.
Puns, I need a pun, right?
No puns allowed.
You got a pun, Donna, for that
No,
one, or
no.
Nothing?
No, no fun.
Really stinks.
We have a here, you borrowed that one. We have a motion and a second. Can I have roll call, please?
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro,
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Braun,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion carried.
Traffic safety regarding various traffic safety recommendations from their February meeting.
I'll make the motion that we accept all the traffic safety recommendations
Moved by Alderman-
as forwarded.
moved by Alderman Pecoraro,
I'll second.
second by Alderman Berube.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have monthly reports, Senior Citizen Center, Clerk Treasurer.
Make a motion to receive and file the monthly reports.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka,
I'll second.
second by Alderwoman Braun.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have semi-annual vacation and sick leave reports, Department of Public Works.
Make the motion we receive and file.
Moved by Alderman Pecoraro,
I'll second that.
second by Alderman Tyler.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have communications from others, Rescue Fire Company, regarding removal of Bernard Bacon from the fire rolls.
I'll make that motion.
Moved by Alderman Berube,
A second.
second by Alderman Zazoka.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
I have the Chamber of Commerce of the Tonawandas, permission to close the Renaissance Bridge, May 19th, 2018, for the launch of its Heritage Tour of the Tonawandas.
We're getting real close to launch a new heritage tour for the Tonawandas. There are 26 sites overall identified. Most of the markers are already up, the pamphlet's done, the voiceovers for those are completed. And this kickoff on the 19th of May will be joint between the cities of North Tonawanda and Tonawanda with the Chamber of Commerce in the lead. And it's been really a thrill that we've gotten this project as far as we have, as quickly as we have. I'm gonna make the motion that we close the bridge so they can launch it justly on the 19th of May.
Moved by Alderman Pecoraro,
I'll second.
Seconded by Alderwoman Braun.
We have a motion and a second. Can I have, is all in favor for this item?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
From the Historic Preservation Commission regarding permission to have a paid administrative assistant for their meetings.
I will make that motion.
I will second that motion.
Moved by Alderwoman Braun, seconded by Alderman Zazoka.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor for this item?
You wanna make a roll call?
You can do a roll call if you want. Since it's a paid administrative assistant, I'll have roll call. Go ahead.
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro,
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Braun,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye, motion carried.
Okay, I want to apologize, we have several late communications. And what I'll do is I'll call for each one to the floor after I read what it is. Okay, this one is from Brad Rawls. Dear Honorable Body, I am writing this letter to announce my formal retirement from the City of North Tonawanda as Superintendent of Public Works effective 4/1/2018. I would like to thank everyone for all the great opportunities that were given to me as an employee of the city. I have enjoyed working with and learning from everyone, including coworkers and residents. Do I have a motion to bring this to the floor?
I'll make the motion. We bring that to the floor.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is on the floor.
Okay, do I have a motion to accept this letter of retirement?
I'll make the motion that we accept Brad's retirement and reluctantly wish him the very best. Well, reluctantly in retirement, but we wish him the best in the future.
And I will second that.
We have a motion and a second to accept this. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried.
Okay, second late communication I have from City Clerk Treasurer. And it is in regards to the 2018 Certified Local Government Grant Application Contract. I am requesting the council allow the mayor to sign the 2018 Certified Local Government Grant Application through the Bureau of Community Preservation Services Division for Historic Preservation. This grant is going to be used for an level survey to determine the boundaries of one or more historic lumber baron districts. The total project cost is $22,899. The grant request is for $11,255, and the applicant match is $11,644. Of that $11,644, $3,200 is paid by the Preservation League of New York State, and the remaining $8,444 is in non-monetary in-kind services. Do I have a motion to allow the mayor to sign this grant? Do I have a motion to bring this to the floor
I'll
first?
make a motion to bring it to the floor, please.
I'll
Moved by
second.
Alderman Zazoka, second by Alderman Berube.
We have a motion and a second to bring it onto the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is on the floor to be considered.
Do I have a motion to allow the mayor to sign this government grant application?
I'd like to make the motion that we allow it, but I really want to stress the fact that this is an in-kind process. I know it was listed and read as such, but I want to make the motion that it's in-kind. If there's any financial obligation to the city, it needs to be revoted on at a later date.
I agree.
Do I have a second?
I
I'll
second that.
Second by Alderman Zazoka.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Alderman Tyler,
Aye.
Pecoraro,
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Braun,
Aye.
Zazoka.
Aye. Motion's carried.
Okay, the third late communication is a resolution. This is water treatment plant improvements, the seeker. And I will read the resolution before we bring it to the floor.
Who's this from?
This is a seeker resolution for the water treatment plant improvements. Whereas in compliance with Part 617 of the implementation regulations pertaining to Article 9, State Environmental Quality Review Act of the Environmental Conservation Law, the North Tonawanda City Council has reviewed the water treatment plant improvements proposed for the water treatment plant in the city of North Tonawanda. And whereas the city council of the city of North Tonawanda has classified the action as a type 2 action, which are not subject to seeker review. And whereas the city of North Tonawanda has determined that the proposed project, which is a type 2 action, will not have a significant impact on the environment or are otherwise precluded from environmental review under Environmental Conservation Law, Article 8. Therefore, be it resolved that the City Council of the City of North Tonawanda, after considering the action proposed herein, reviewing the criteria contained in Section 617.5, Part C 2 of the rules and regulations of the seeker, regulatory determinations that the action is a type 2 action and is not subject to seeker review. And be it further resolved that the mayor is hereby authorized and directed to sign required documentation indicating that the proposed action is a type 2 action. Do I have a motion to bring this resolution to the floor?
I'll make that motion, bring that to the floor.
I'll second it.
Moved by Alderman Zazoka, seconded by Alderman Pecoraro.
We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
The motion is on the floor. for review.
On the question with that, type 2 is said a million times. Can you explain that, Dale?
Well, I mean, it's an action that doesn't require to go through the long, the environmental assessment form and do the whole review, because what it is, Bob, you're on the committee that's working on the capital improvement plan. It's basically, we're looking at our wastewater treatment plant 4 years in now. It's no longer a new plan and things are breaking down, so it's coming up with a plan that replaces all that equipment. So if we don't fix or solve some of the problems over the next few years, it's bad for the environment, because it breaks down, and you can see what happened in Niagara Falls. So one of the critical things here is that it's a type 2 action, and basically we're going to be making improvements to the system, so it's a benefit to the environment. And the fact that we're going to bond money in April, and it's a requirement of the bond council that you pass secret before we bond that. And the city doesn't want to have to redo that and cost the taxpayers an extra $15,000 to rebond money at a later date. So it's sort of critical timing that you get.
Yeah. So, the one other follow-up question is, if there were no improvements made to the water department for whatever reason, wastewater, would that affect this at all?
Well, I think we have to make improvements.
So
There's
it's,
grant money out there to make improvements and to
Right.
better, to improve what's going on out there. Because we're at the point now where things are starting to break down and cost the taxpayers money. So we need to have a capital plan in place that replaces that equipment. And it's like it's a requirement, really, of your honorable body, and also, the accounting department being proactive and not reactive. When something breaks, oh, you got to bond $1 million and fix it. No, we want to have a plan and then get the grant money that pays for that. So
Right.
it's
this is locking us in to make sure we are doing the improvements to the wastewater treatment.
This is not locking us into
Okay.
anything.
Okay,
This
it's
is
not.
the first step. For a year now, we've been coordinating and going through a capital improvement plan for the wastewater
Mhm.
treatment plant. This moves us farther along in that process to make the required capital improvements that are needed to keep that plant functioning.
And may I just add to that this is a necessary, actionable situation with both the wastewater treatment plant and the water treatment plant that, as we know, for decades, hasn't been acted upon. It predisposes this council and mayor, but we're doing something about it. We're committed to making the repairs and prioritizing the repairs, and that's why we're working with Bill Davignon and the experts and engineers that he's gotten to assess the situation.
Yeah,
Okay.
you haven't acted on the water treatment plant yet. This is.
No, but we're
But
gonna
that's,
be looking at that too.
You've required us to look at that too, and that's
Yeah.
the next, so you have a
Absolutely.
working map to go by.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Dale, for answering that. The green infrastructure project is a good thing moving forward. I just wanted to clarify the correlation between the wastewater treatment plant and this project. So,
You mean the GIGP for Main Street?
Yeah.
Yeah, that secret was actually passed by
Mhm.
the State Environmental Facilities Corporation, where they took lead agency, and that was going on the emails today. where, we provided that information to bond council, so you
Right.
don't have to act on it.
Right,
It's
yeah.
all set on all your safe routes.
We're still
I
dealing
know, I
with this.
understand.
we're still dealing
So it's
with
separate,
wastewater.
it's separate from that.
Mhm.
This is a whole separate bond.
Do I have a motion to accept this resolution?
I make the motion that we accept the seeker on the wastewater treatment plant improvements.
I wholeheartedly second that motion. We have a motion and a second. Let's have a roll call on it, please.
Alderman Tyler,
I,
Pecoriello,
Aye.
Berube,
Aye.
Ron,
Aye.
Zilka.
Aye, motion carried. That takes care of all lake comps?
Yep.
All right, at this point, if we have anybody wishing to speak on any city business for the good of the city, please step up to the microphone, state your name and address for the record.
Greetings to all North Tonawanda elected officials.
Sir, can I have your name and address for
Yes.
record?
Thomas Meyer and Greenwood Circle,
Can I have a house number?
132.
I, Tom.
Thank you.
Yes. I'm basically here because I've lived in North Tonawanda for 12 years, since 2006. And they've invested a lot of money in my house and my property, completing different projects because we intend to live there for a while. My concern, though, is with the present city dog code, chapter 33. I've spoken with some council members already about this, either in person or by email, which I do appreciate your time for listening to all that. But the code we have now for the dogs hasn't been really updated that much since 1979. And my actual position on it, because I'll tell you my situation, is that I think that the number of dogs that a resident should be able to own should be limited to 3. And with a potential permit process for owning more than that, to be voted on or to allow somebody to have more than 3 dogs for a given year, as long as there's no other complications to that person as far as cleaning up after the animal or any complaints from nearby neighbors and residents of that situation. Which would include offensive animal odors and specific nuisance conditions. Now, I want to say at this point too, that as we speak right now, the city of North Tonawanda has codes for cats. And it calls out a limit of 5, which is nice because my conversation I've had in the past with Ms. Lauren, Christine Hutton, is that there apparently was a situation in North Tonawanda years ago where an elderly woman had more than 50 cats. And it became a nuisance with odors and everything else, not good for public health and safety. And that prompted the city to actually move on that to get an actual hardline number. And so that the nuisance code can be put in some of the subsections for that chapter with cats. And it's nice that it happened that way for those animals and for any people that might have a problem with them, because now there's legal grip in the book for somebody that has a problem or a complaint to deal with that. With dogs, there isn't anything. So, and I should state also too that I've had a pet my whole life, even in my childhood. And I'm an animal lover. Animals are not the problem. It's the people that harbor them, whether they develop a mental illness or it's anywhere near hoarding, somebody that's a budding hoarder, like my next door neighbor might be. That's what causes a problem. That causes a nuisance, which could be a health and safety hazard for anybody nearby. My present neighbor right now that lives directly upwind from my house has become a significant issue for my family and myself. It started evolving about 2.5 years ago, and it's gradually went up to a certain point. She's got as much as 12 or 13 dogs. Presently, she has 8. She's living under the mask of fostering them. She's not fostering any of them, because these animals are the same now as of looking at them Sunday night, as compared to the way they were when things blew up last summer and everything came off the rails. I don't really talk with her. My family doesn't talk with her anymore because of an incident where the first time I ever called the police for any issue was on June 27th last year. And that was because of her. She came on our property and actually took dog collars, as weird as it seems, off of 4 of her 8 or 9 or 10 animals, stuffed them in my mailbox. So Officer Linecar showed up to deal with the situation because I'm done dealing with somebody like that. We still have offensive odors that comes into the backyard. Try to have a cookout with that with your friends and family. But they mainly manifest themselves in the summertime, of course, on a hot and humid day. She has installed a cheap wire fence in her backyard. Dogs are still escaping at times. And they've been sometimes left out in her backyard unaccounted for overnight, because when this person is working, she works third shift and leaves sometimes at 10:30 at night and may not come back till 8 o'clock in the morning. We have one dog right now that we let out when I get up at about 4:30 in the morning, because when I work, I leave at 6 in construction as a resident engineer in different projects, including which Dale Marshall knows who I am. We worked on the Durkee Bridge 2.5 years ago. When she leaves for work, sometimes when I go into my backyard to let my dog out, we can see one of her dogs that she apparently missed cowering her backyard if it's cold and wet back there. And we sort of look at it, we got to calling anybody about it because she's getting out of hand in a lot of those areas.
Sure, you got about a minute.
Okay. The smell generated from this accumulated feces and urine is very noticeable. It's irritating when you're in the backyard. And like you said, worse in the summer than the winter. If you think about it, right now she has 8 dogs that we're aware of. If that dog poops twice a day for 8 dogs, that's 16 times. And over a 7-day period, which is only a week, that's 112 issues that are in the backyard. She doesn't clean up after them, never does, never witnessed them, and that's where the smell generates from. And that's only the solid stuff, not even the urine, which carries an ammonia smell that can irritate your throat and be offensive if you're in the backyard and the wind's going in the correct direction. Long story short, right now, I don't believe there's anything in our City of North Tonawanda code protecting our residents from people like this. Right now, if you want to have 50 dogs, go and get them. And as long as you pick up after them, you can probably keep them, because there's no legal teeth to bite into it to stop somebody from doing that. And there should be, because there shouldn't be kennels around here unless you go for a permit, which I heard is unlikely to get. And as far as people fostering dogs, that's great. But even one of the top directors at the Niagara County SPCA said that certain people that might be budding hoarders that have a lot of dogs, they're not doing the dogs any favors. They're actually hurting them, because those animals could be brought to an area where they might be purchased or adopted or something like that, where they can actually have a normal home and get the proper attention and medical care.
Thomas,
Okay.
are you all set?
Well, there's just a few more things I wanted to say, but it includes, let me just say this, there is a rational basis for all this, legally speaking. If Common Council members would entertain this and vote on it, another 30 seconds here, the rational basis is the surrounding areas. Niagara Falls, 3-dog limit. Grand Island, 3-dog limit. City of Tonawanda, Town of Tonawanda, Kenmore, 2-dog limit, which carries riders with proper permits. And if a person gets that because they have more than 3 dogs, that's great. They're gonna stay out of the crosshairs of any kind of problems. But if they can't maintain those dogs, because maybe like Christine had stated in many articles in the Gazette and other areas on the internet, where they become a problem and there's complaints about them, then the crosshairs land on that person and then the city can deal with that person. Right now, having a hardline number of, say, 3 dogs, shouldn't really be fearful for any residents in North Tonawanda, unless it's always been a problem and maybe nobody's complained about it, because it's hard enough to take care of 3 dogs. I can only imagine what this woman does with 8 or 12 of them. My concluding thing at the end of this is that there is actually empirical data, if you check it out on the internet or different books, seriously check into it. Since 2006 to 2016, there's been approximately $38.4 billion spent on animal products, which is great. As of 2016, the actual total on that is over $69 billion in that. The people that own pets, dogs are number 1 by over 40.8%, cats are number 2. And if you look at some of this data, which is supplied by the APPA, I won't bother wasting time digging that up right now, and I can supply anything you need. I got more documents with me. It just proves that dogs have become very accepted. They are family members, and I totally agree that they are. I wouldn't want nobody hurting my dog, just like with a family member. But if somebody has too many of them and can't take care of them, it's an issue for me. I own my house, it's paid off, I'm not going nowhere. I also am, being a professional, when I come home from work, I like to relax when the weather's good in my backyard and not have to deal with something like this.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's being considered, and the city attorneys have told us that we need to update this ordinance, which is why you've seen in the paper several workshop discussions
Yes.
and meetings with the animal control officer. Just to add a caveat to what you said there, I also don't want to see people penalized that can control their dogs. Have had 5 dogs for 10 years and they haven't had any problems or neighbor complaints. You know, I'm an animal lover, you know, as you said, you're an animal lover. I'd hate to have to restrict people who are falling within the guidelines of, you know, keeping their animals kept after and in control. So we've got to look at this, and we're going to continue to look at it. That's why I kind of think we need to have a handle and maybe do a census to
Yes.
give us an idea. So thank you for stepping forward on that, and it is a work in progress.
Mr. Zedzilka, if I could just may interject one more time briefly. I was gonna address that in some of my notes. A lot of other surrounding municipalities do actually deal with what you just said, and I totally agree with that. There are people that have more than 3 animals. I'm talking specifically dogs. I don't care about gerbils or about, you can't have goats or horses or nothing that I'm aware of in the city. But if somebody has more than 3 animals and they can take care of them and they're not, nobody's complaining, the radar's not on them, the cannons won't be pointed at them, law enforcement won't be called, animal control won't be called, there won't be any issues. That would be supplied possibly by maybe an external permit where somebody can come down to the city and say, hey, listen, I got more than 3 dogs, I wanna apply for a permit to keep them, to take care of them. And if they're not a problem, then great, you have 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 dogs.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, Mr.
If they
Mayor.
become a
Thank you.
problem, then
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wishing to speak on any city business for the good of the city, please step forward. Step to the microphone, state your name and address.
Hi, everybody. My name is Stephen Moyer, and I reside at 218 Sweeney Street. That's the corner of Oliver and Sweeney Street. Perhaps some of you remember me from the spring cleanup that we did down that way. My wife and I jumped in, we helped. Actually, my wife and I have been citizens of North Tonawanda for over 27 years. The reason why I use the term citizen as compared to a resident is due to the fact that our cumulative hours of labor upon the surrounding city's property is around 4,000 to 5,000 hours over 27 years. We've done snow removal, we've done landscaping on that corner. So she's into the gardening thing, I gotta help her. Okay, let's see. I'm here today to request that, I heard about some grant monies were designated for those streets, Oliver, Sweeney, and perhaps another street. And I'd like to speak for Oliver and Sweeney Street. I believe that the greatest influx of visiting millionaires are patrons of the Remington Tavern restaurant. Beyond simple patrons, the Remington also attracts their friends, relatives, all of which provide input to the affluent. Shouldn't we optimize their experience? I think so. The corner of Sweeney and Oliver Street is a first impression area for our city, even beyond the restaurant. Many travelers enter the city via Delaware Avenue. They will take that right upon Sweeney Street and proceed onward and upward via Oliver Street. So, you know, what needs to be done there? Here's some opinions. The parking lot on Oliver and Sweeney Street, which of course is Remington Tavern's designated area, I do believe they have a lease, is 14 years old, and it's really starting to show it. It really needs to be repaved, restriped, everything. It's kind of, there's accumulative gravel on there, which is, we'll say, non-optimum for the patrons of the restaurant. I also believe that within that parking lot too, there should be another street light put in there, pointed towards the parking lot, so the clientele have a safer egress during their evening comings and goings of the restaurant. Let's see, also too, the alleyway entrance into the lot actually needs to be removed and replaced. That rascal's over 28 years old. It's in really bad shape. They did a little patch job in there, but it's heaved, it's uneven, there's non-typical water distribution. So that's the other thing. Then finally, on the other side of Olive Street, the west side, I think there's a significant need for landscaping improvement. For you guys who worked there last year, you probably realize we almost have a blank slate for some excellent modifications. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, Mr. Meyer. Anybody else wishing to speak on any city business for the good of the city, please step forward.
Good evening. I'm Krista Vince-Garland from 238 Tremont Street, and I am coming forward with a kernel of an idea for you all. I understand, and you'll have to forgive me if I don't get the terminology quite right. There's a council/school board communication committee that brings forward collaboration.
Correct.
I saw something on the news last night in the spirit of school safety that I thought might be an idea for you all to consider and maybe collaborate on. I've done a little bit of research on it, and it's actually a thing in Indiana, and it's called the School Walkthrough Initiative. And essentially what this is a communication and collaboration between the city council, the police department, and the school board, where at any given point, once a day, an officer will stop by a school, as long as it's during the school hours. And they park their car up front, and they come unannounced, and they just walk through the school. And this helps to add a level of security. It increases approachability for the officers, and it helps with prevention. So essentially, our students are engaging with an officer and school administration in a positive learning environment that doesn't cost anything. But as the old adage is, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So just something to think about when we move forward in talking about school safety and our civic responsibility and our police officers.
Good point, and I don't think enough can be done on safety, whether it be the schools or public safety, so it's duly noted there, so we'll take that forward and see if we have a member of the school board in the audience, and maybe we can actually talk about that some more.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else wishing to speak on any city business for the good of the city, please step forward.
Some interesting comments. Thank you for speaking. My name is Sonia Duza, and I reside at 123 Miller Street. As I said earlier, I had a couple of questions, comments, maybe more comments, with regard to the agenda. On the agenda, it had accountant payment of abstracts of claims dated March 20, 2018. In the past, granted, several years back, on that table, a person would be able to pick up the claims data that were being requested to be voted on. I would like to see that return. That is very, very important. The taxpayers who are paying for those claims should have access right on that table when they come to a meeting before you vote on that item. So I am respectfully asking for that once again. I think you know how important that is, right? Maybe those two don't think it is important, but I've seen people who were very well connected with NT and there were problems and they were receiving payments. Also, on the Chamber of Commerce of the Tonawanda's permission to close the Renaissance Bridge, to launch the celebration of the two municipalities working together. It's wonderful that we had that togetherness. It's about our heritage of our being together, celebrating the connection. I want to say to you something very important. Along River Road from Erie County to Niagara County, when you're on River Road before you get to Williams Road, let's say you're coming from the falls and you're on River Road, right after that signal, you'll see a huge historic sign, and it says, "You are now entering the Erie Canal Historic Heritage Corridor." That's also the Seaway Trail, and it's all over the state if you look at the map. I have been confounded for decades. Maybe it's like 10 years, but even before that, it's crappy, it's slovenly. And in recent years, we have on River Road, the concrete junkyard went from the gateway to our downtown to across the wastewater treatment plant. I think to myself, this is a historic corridor. It's the Seaway Trail. It goes throughout the state. And this looks like this. How did we ever allow it to be? How did we ever allow that bringing the garbage and recycling it ever happen? I remember it was written in the front page of the Tonawanda News, Gary Franklin, "No, Tonawanda, we don't want to take your garbage and recycle it." But then it happened a few years later, we have like a recycling of garbage. This is River Road. It's across also from our beautiful, magnificent Niagara River, our waterfront district. Who thinks this way? That's why I'm reminded as I speak, we got to get a planner, a real planner here. We need a planner, period. But I'd like to see an experienced, savvy one. This is like unbelievable. Am I making my point? Do you understand what I'm talking about? This is the Erie Canal Historic Heritage Corridor, and yet River Road looks like slum. Yeah, let me go further. It looks like slum. Over the years, I thought, geez, they need somebody to really know how to plan for things along our river, along River Road. Just over the tracks are residential properties. You hurt the neighborhoods. Think about what I've said, please. Also, the ZBA, when I was at the last meeting, young woman behind me said, "Is there an agenda?" Dan, you were there.
Yes,
It wasn't there. We always had that. Please, let's have the agenda on the table also. That's basic 101 in
Thank you, Sonia.
governing.
Thank you so much.
You know, I had a couple more things, but I'll leave it at that. And there's a lot to think about, and I hope we'll go forward on it.
Thank you, Sonia.
Thank you so much.
Anybody else wishing to speak on any city business for the good of the city, please step forward. Seeing that there's none, we'll move on to closing comments. We'll start with Austin Tyler, please.
Let's see. Okay, so Krista, you had made that comment about the police officers possibly patrolling or stopping by the high school or middle school or any of our schools in North Tonawanda. And I do know for one fact, and other school board members could back me up, that police officers do patrol the school district areas a little bit more during the day when kids are in session. I learned that from talking to a few of them. So they try their best to do that. And of course, there is some security inside the high school, but I think your point is something that could be looked into, maybe discussed with the chief, right? Chief, it's a possibility, right? So thank you. And I wanted to bring up a couple positive things going on. So, sir, is it Jesse? What was your first name again on Sweeney and Albert Street?
Steven.
It's nice to meet you. We are actually, just to play off of your point of cleaning up, we are, the Albert Street Merchants, Webster Street Merchants, and Project Pride are teaming up and having a cleanup event April 21st and 22nd, just like last year. So if you do want to participate, I don't think we can pay you in, money, but maybe donuts and coffee if you want to join. So we will be doing that along the street there. So please join us if you could. And I believe there's other cleanups going on as well. And the other thing with the Albert Street Merchants, myself and a few friends will be holding a Seinfeld trivia for a benefit for Albert Street Merchants Association. It's on April 7th at Witters, starting at 6, so if anyone would like to come. Tables have filled up, but you can still watch and grab food or drinks and so on, so it was really fun last year. We raised about $600 for the organization, and that all went back into the streetscape, and it brought money in to Witters as well. And more addressed to the council, there was a couple things that I wanted to bring up that I would hope could make it on the next agenda. I'm just going to go through them really quick. It's come to my attention that we don't follow exactly the Roberts Rule of Order. Right? We've never actually passed that. That's how we structure our government.
Well, it would be the default. That's what we use, because it's the default.
Have we ever officially made it our rules of order?
Not that I know of.
Okay.
It could have been.
So this is something that I think we should put on the following agenda, and I'll read off others, but I recommend that North Tonawanda Common Council abide by Robert's Rules of Order in the conduct of all North Tonawanda Common Council or public meetings. This ensures structure and proper means methods to the procedures of the Common Council.
What would you be referring to specifically?
Well, and we can talk about it more in discussion
And I
the
just want
following
to mention,
agenda.
in regards to that, New Year Conference on Mayors suggests going away from Robert's Rules of Order towards they're coming up with their own model. They think Roberts is too restrictive for a common council,
So it might be something that we could discuss, but I know
Right,
a
so-
mumajority of municipalities, governments,
So if
agencies.
it's something to talk about, yes, but if you're gonna make a motion to adopt Robert's rules.
Oh, not currently now. I think it's just something so everyone can have it on the radar and then give their input later on, opportunity for input. The following one, I'd like to put on the agenda that written minutes of workshop meetings of the North Tonawanda Common Council be kept and maintained by the city clerk treasurer. Although no action is taken during our workshop meetings, there should be a record of items discussed and maybe a summary of any comments. And finally, I propose that an ethics committee consisting of 5 members be created. This ethics committee consists of a standing body designed to be a source of advice on policy implementation and support for ethics within the agency or municipality, which would be us. An ethics committee can also play an educational role within the agency and out in the community as well. I recommend each council member shall appoint 1 member to distribute authority over the ethics committee. Tasks of the committee shall be to review, write, and revise as needed the code of ethics for the city of North Tonawanda, which shall set standards of conduct for all North Tonawanda employees, including elected and appointed officials. Ethics committee shall act as an independent body that provides external oversight and enforcement of ethics laws. Actions which may be considered a violation of the code of ethics shall be directed by any North Tonawanda citizen to the city clerk treasurer, who will present the matter to the committee for their review and recommendation. And then such recommendation, if any, shall be presented to us, the Common Council, for review. And I did bring packets of just a breakdown of Robert's Rule, if anyone would like them as well. And just to, I think, so the whole point of the Ethics Committee is really, it's just holds people accountable to a different degree. It would be an outside body that just oversees things going on. They don't have any sort of, they wouldn't have any sort of acting upon laws and so on, but just really a recommendation. I do have examples of places that do these commissions or committees. I know the Niagara County Legislative Board has an ethics committee that was created quite some time ago. So we could always look at them and see what their standards are, but there are other agencies that do have an ethics committee. And we don't currently have any sort of centralized HR department either. So a lot of city employees I've talked to thought that this may be a great way to sort of just have a different eye on things and to spread the authority more so. So it's something I think we should consider, and I'll give you guys all these write-ups, and we can talk about it at the next meeting. Okay?
Okay,
It was intense, everyone, right? Yeah.
not necessarily.
Sonia, wait till after comments, Sonia.
Okay, so let's have, for next, Alderman Bob Pecoraro.
Thank you, welcome for attending this evening. It's great to see you all here, and it was great to see all the comments. I want to say thanks to Brad Rawls, the superintendent of our Department of Public Works, and wish him all the best on his retirement overall. Mr. Meyer, I agree, residents should not have to put up with the public nuisance that you put up with, and we're gonna look at that problem and see what we can do, because you should be free from odors and smells and noise, as you're living in North Tonawanda. So that's unacceptable to me, and unacceptable should be to every other resident that abides by the rules and standards of what it means to be a good neighbor. So thank you for your comments, earlier. Sir, on Oliver Street, Sweeney Street, did you know that we did an Oliver Street needs assessment last month? And if you don't know about that, I would like to meet with you after the meeting and talk about a time that I can come over and talk to you about what improvement plans we're doing for the future of Oliver Street and see what we can do about influencing the portion that you're talking about here. So if you wouldn't mind staying afterwards for a few minutes, I'd love to talk to you more about that.
Thank you, Bob. I was gonna say the same thing.
I stole your thunder
No,
because I
no, you
speak
didn't
before
steal
you
my thunder,
do.
but you know, we're on the.
Well, we can do it
we can do it
collaboratively.
together.
I
We
think
have
that
a
would be
lot
important
of,
to
exciting
do.
things coming down the
Yeah.
pipeline for us.
Absolutely.
And I met you before, Mr. Meyer.
So thank you for that, and please, we'd love to get with you and schedule a time so that we can sit down and talk to you about Oliver Street and your views on that. As you can see, we've done a lot tonight to talk about city business. Water, wastewater was a big thrill for me, because I sit on that wastewater capital improvement plan. And what the city is doing is actually putting ourselves into a 5 to 10 year and more capital improvement process, so that we have discipline in our financial understandings and what we can do here as a city. So that's been a real great thing about our budget committee that we formed last year to be able to take care of, and that's just another step in the right direction of moving forward overall. I can't speak highly enough of our heritage and what it means for people to understand what our heritage is here in the Tonawandas, and it's great that the chamber went and took on that committee and to define to everyone here the importance of what the cities mean to residents in the city. And finally, I want to say that another success that we've had is our hub for services. If you're in the city of North Tonawanda tomorrow between the hours of 10 and 2, I welcome you to come to Redeemer Lutheran Church on Falconer Street to our Hub for Services session that we're having in their quarterly. Tomorrow's session is going to focus on financial planning and also tax preparation, but also there's going to be other services there provided for residents. So if you can be there, see the great things that are going on in the city of North Tonawanda, I'd invite you all to be there. And with that, that concludes my comments, Mr. President. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. Alderwoman Donna Braun.
I also would like to say congratulations to Brad on his retirement. I'll miss him. When you do talk to him, he can talk your ear off. But he showed me a lot of things about roads, and I appreciate him, and I'm sure DPW will be in good hands in the future. Also like to congratulate Kristen Derby for, her position on the Historic Preservation Committee. I do have, Mr. Myers, I, second Mr. Pecораro's, sentiments about our Oliver Street assessment. We have a lot of exciting things coming down, we have a lot of plans, so definitely we'd like to share that with you. And I would like to remind everybody that, this Saturday, at Pinewoods Park, we will be having our annual Easter egg hunt for the kids, at 10 o'clock. So bring down your grandchildren, your children, and it's a lot of fun. Hopefully, it's not gonna snow this year, I don't think, right?
It's gonna be a beautiful day,
And
and we're gonna paint the eggs.
And I thank everybody for coming out tonight, including the students in the back. And that's all I have for today.
Thank you, Donna. Alderman Mark Berube.
I'll make mine quick. Again, I would like to congratulate Brad on his retirement. I know he will be missed. Two, with wastewater, I think. Yes, I am a little hoarse. With the wastewater department and the plan going forward, I think we've all toured in the last month the wastewater department and realized the needs that are going to be there over the next 10 to 20 years, which is why we're putting this program together, because it is something that is greatly needed before we get into those financial difficulties where we're being reactive instead of proactive. And lastly, Mr. Meyer, with the dogs, I fully agree with you. My daughter is a critical care veterinary criticalist, and if she heard a lot of what you had mentioned is happening with your neighbor, she'd be very, very upset. So I agree with you there, and I think we do need to review that. And with that, I'll end it.
All right, thank you. Let's go to Luke Brown, the city attorney. I don't want to skip you this time.
Sure, just two things quick. Ridge Road update. The attorneys for the school, Sportsplex and myself are meeting Thursday to go over a possible resolution to get that paved this spring. So I'll report back on that after the meeting. Regarding the ethics committee, I did just want to point out that because the city is in Niagara County and doesn't have an ethics committee, we fall under the purview of the Niagara County Ethics Committee. So any ethics recommendation currently would go to Niagara County.
So they're supposed to have oversight of everything going on in
What I'm saying is if there is a ethical question that needs to be presented to an ethics board, currently it would go to the county. Quite frankly, I think it provides a layer of protection to the county, to the city residents and the city employees that might fall under that, because instead of having something that could quite frankly become highly politicized by having 5 local North Tonawanda people appointed by local aldermen intervening on city business, you now have this extra layer where they're appointed at the county level. They're coming from Niagara Falls, Lewiston, Town of Niagara, so they don't have any stake in what happens. They're there strictly to determine the ethics of it. So if we want to talk about it, we can talk about it, but I did just want to point that out.
I mean, just because council members don't appoint the legislative body that's in their ethics committee doesn't mean there could be a connection between them as well, right?
No, that's correct. What I'm saying is, it does add a layer in there that you're talking about different people from different cities and counties, other than everything being localized and being so in a small, tight-knit community being politicized that way. Instead, you're grabbing from a large area. All these people are coming in, so
We should use those as a resource.
I think that's something, if we're gonna talk about it, we'll talk about it, but I did just wanna point that out for, I don't know if it's on the next, agenda, so I did just wanna point that out.
Thank you, Luke. Dan Quinn, city clerk treasurer, extraordinaire.
Other than the only thing I'm gonna I would like to say if groups like any of the aldermen have items that you would like me to add to the city calendar on the website, just pass them on to me and I can definitely add them on.
Excellent. Mayor Arthur Pappas, any closing comments?
Just a couple, comments here. First of all, I also want to offer my, best wishes to Brad Rawls for his several years of service here in North Tonawanda. We've seen, a lot of progress in the city, having to do with the Department of Public Works. And, while I'm talking about Public Works, I just want to also mention to people that, our crews, in spite of the weather, have been out there just about every single day. And we ask that you have patience, which fortunately people have for the most part. Almost everything being done the past few weeks is of temporary nature due to the fact of the snow and the temperatures and so on. Permanent fixes have not necessarily been in place yet, plus the idea of being able to get the hot patch and materials from the suppliers. They're not even operating yet, from what I understand. So permanent fixes will be starting as soon as the weather helps out and they open their facilities at the same time. But they have been doing a super job considering what they've been up against. And if anyone's been watching TV, and even tonight, they had a big thing on potholes, and all the communities around us are having a very similar problem. So when you see the guys out there and the women working, they're working hard and they're out there every single day. So just so you're aware. The heritage tours that Colonel Pecoraro mentioned a few minutes ago, this is something of benefit to both cities. And as time goes on, as the months go on now, you're going to see more and more happening between the two cities. And it's pretty much agreed by the councils of both cities and the mayors of both cities that the more we can do together, the better each city is going to benefit. What benefits one city benefits the other city, and vice versa. Gateway got going that way, with both cities working together, and you can see how successful it's been. We're working on more projects and updates in that, so that's coming to, and the history is being brought out both in the city of Tonawanda and North Tonawanda. We have an amazing history in this region, in this area, and it's being brought out more and more. With Mrs. Garland, your comments on safety, of course, are always well taken. I do want to say that safety, as Mr. Zazilka pointed out, I guess nowadays you can't do enough for it. Everybody is working very diligently to provide the safest atmosphere we can have, both in the schools and in the community. I think I mentioned it at the last meeting, I don't know if it was a workshop or the last meeting, but North Tonawanda is on the list of one of the safest cities in New York State now. And there's a lot of cities and towns in this state, and we are now on that list of one of the safer cities. And in that regard, I think that we can't say enough about our police and what they do day in and day out, and our fire, all emergency responders, and the public itself, because the public seems willing to come forward if they have a problem or a suspicion or a concern. They are doing it. And I have to congratulate our police department, from the chief all the way through the patrolmen, both men and women, for the tremendous investigative work that they did concerning the recent threats at the high school. That was handled very thoroughly and very quickly. And they should be congratulated for that, along with the school authorities. And there is a lot of connection between the police department and the school authorities, now more than ever. We have had it in this town for a long time, but it's even being strengthened and secured more. So all those people concerned with that, I think, should be recognized. The idea of Robert's Rules of Orders, I just want to say that Robert's Rules of Orders in most organizations, whether they adopt it or use it as a secondary source, it's basically a guideline. It isn't something that you stick right to the letter on. And I used to teach a course in Robert's Rules of Order. I'm pretty familiar with it. And I would say that the council sticks pretty close to it without getting too nitty-gritty. And I think there's enough discretion and leeway that seems to be working fine. Can always look to improve with the way meetings are handled or whatever, but sometimes you can paint yourself into a corner with too many rules and regulations. So it's just something to be aware of, I think. Mr. Meyer, Steve Meyer, with your, first of all, thank you very much for all you and your wife have done over the past several years, and your invitation to take part in more is like, I think you've done more than your part by the sounds of it. But we welcome your suggestions and your help, of course. So thank you very much. And all of the, as you can see, little by little, codes and policies are being looked at. Our legal department now is flooded. And by that, I mean they are looking at updating codes and regulations constantly. And for several reasons. They might be outdated. We might need adjustments. When some of these codes were written, they were written way before this type of world we're living in now. And our legal department is working very, very hard at this. And they need it because by updating and by making, in some cases, more specific, and yet finding that balance between being specific and having discretion is what needs to be found. And by updating, this is going to help our police department, it's going to help our citizens. If codes are not clear, the police have a very difficult job. What do they enforce, what don't they enforce? We're trying to correct these things as we go. So we, in all departments right now, are in a state of transition because we're trying to look down the road, we're trying to look ahead, rather than just patching and saying, this is what we're doing today. We're trying to look to see what the future of North Tonawanda is going to be like. And that's the reason why questions come up, and that's why council members are questioning and coming up with ideas. But we welcome on our website your comments, your suggestions, and talking to us personally. So thank you for listening, and thank you for attending tonight.
And finally, my closing comments, I just want to thank each and every one of you for coming in to the meeting and stating whether you were here to hear what's going on in the city or stating your ideas or your opinions. We welcome those, and a lot of people brought up some very good points. And we appreciate that, and that's something that we will take forward in our meetings, in our discussions, and our workshops. And just as the mayor had said, our city attorney is doing a great job with looking at our leases, our lease agreements, things that may have been going on for a while that need attention. And one of the things, of course, is this ordinance with the dog ordinance. He said, Eric, we need to take a good look at this, and we may need to make some changes. We're looking at surrounding municipalities. So we're kind of one step ahead of you, but at the same time, we appreciate your comments and considerations that we need to make as we go forward. So we will continue to do that, and we'll do that with due diligence, taking it from all sides. As far as going on with Brad, with his resignation, when I first saw Brad come to the department, we had some very big issues going on. And we had roads before we came in that were virtually almost condemned. Sweeney was one of them, on the street that Mr. Stephen Meyer abuts there. There was literally, had to be done, it was like Craters of the Moon, take about Ridge Road and extend it the length of Sweeney. And that's what we came into office with. And there was nothing done. In my ward, Sherwood was almost condemned. And I'll tell you, he came in with a lot of good ideas. And he also listened to us when we said, what can we do differently? Something that other communities are doing to have lasting repairs, lasting paving, and other methods of getting this done for the best bang for our buck. And I've got to applaud, as sad as it is to see him go, I have to applaud what we have in place right now. We've got, wonderful ideas in our department. We've already been acting on them. There's things that you're gonna see this, not if you haven't seen them before, but you're gonna be seeing some new concepts, some new ways of dealing with the roads, the sidewalks, the trees, the leaves. And that's thanks to, the gentlemen that work with Brad and work under Brad. And this department, I'm gonna say, is at the highest level of, good morale. And this is how we get things done in the city, and I'm glad to see it. And, I wanna thank Mark Zellner and Joe Aiello, who are here tonight, for all their hard work. And, we're in good hands, no matter who, takes the torch from here, but we've got good things going on, and, I just wanted to really give them a shout out for that. As far as, safety, we talked about safety, there's a lot of things to consider. I'm actually glad that we've got some good news from Luke with this, Ridge Road situation. We've been after this, and we've been after this, and after this. And now, finally, we've got all the attorneys coming to the table. We've pled our case to the school board, reached out several times to Sportsplex. These are things that we talk about when we say, here's the problems, let's spend about, maybe 10% of the time on the problem for once, and 90% of our time on the solution. These are things I like to see as, not only the council president, but as an alderman, in the third ward. So it's the working together of this body that are getting these things done, and I just wanna, say that I'm glad that things are moving forward, and we will continue to do so. With that, I just wanna say thank you for attending, and I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion to adjourn, have a second.
Second.
A motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All in favor, who's that? I didn't hear everybody. Aye?
Aye.
Motion carried, meeting's adjourned.
I'm good. So where do we go from here for DPW? What's the process?